Okay, live streaming is not available at this moment. That's cool. All right, YouTube Live. Let's see how this goes. I've never done a YouTube Live like just off the cuff like this, so I hope it works. I hope y'all can hear me. I hope it goes great, because sometimes you just don't know if these things are going to work. So here we are. It is October 7th, 2020. I'm just stoked to be here with everybody. And today I'm here celebrating with you. This is a celebration. This is actually going to be our 75th podcast episode. And to do that, I wanted to record this YouTube Live. So this is going to be replayed on podcast. If you're listening to it on our podcast, if you're watching the replay on YouTube, or if you are just watching it live, that's awesome. I'm just so grateful to be able to be here with you. And I just want to celebrate, but more than anything, like share with you all what I've learned in 10 years doing strategic planning. Because I don't know if you know this, but come January 2021, SME Strategy is going to be around for 10 years, which is crazy to think about. And I wanted to share, some of the lessons that I've learned, some of the stuff that we're working on, everything that we've gone through. If you're a regular subscriber to the Strategy and Leadership podcast, you know that we invite really smart business leaders, strategy leaders, leadership leaders to talk about their best practices they've learned from doing strategic planning and managing teams. And so this time, and I sort of talk a little bit in throughout, but this time I wanted to just share something and bring my own value to the table and help y'all. And for those of you that have had a consultation with us to work on strategic planning, for those of you that have taken our strategic planning course, some of the things that we share or that I share, but really wanted to bring a different spin to today. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope it's valuable. I hope you don't get sick of my voice. And we're going to see how it goes. So I don't have a slide or anything like that. I thought I'd just talk to you because, of course, if you're going to listen to it on the podcast, you won't be able to look at slides anyways. But I want to tell you guys a little bit about me, because especially if you've seen all of these videos, you might not know where I come from. So born and raised in Vancouver. I started off, I've been doing business since I was 10 years old. I delivered newspapers as my very first business. I then put on rock concerts. I had an ESL school, 2 coffee shops. I've had a couple web startups, had a online business. There was a nightlife guide, half in English and half in Japanese. We called it Happening. You know what happen means mixed. And I just was consulting people on marketing and consulting them on business plans, and was just doing low-key business coaching, writing a lot of business plans. And one of the guys I was talking to was saying you can't do this forever. It's not going to be sustainable long term. And I said, okay. And at the time I was also working with a lot of not-for-profits. I was on a couple not-for-profit boards, and just helping them try to use my entrepreneurial nature to help them move forward. And then one of my not-for-profit boards went off and did this retreat, and they had a facilitator that led us through these exercises to think of some stuff. And I was like, man, I can do this. I can totally bring my skills that I developed as a waiter. By the way, I was a waiter for 10 years before this, and bring it to the table and help people figure out where they want to go. It's helping figure out what they want to eat, and help them have a good experience, and guide them and take that sort of marketing strategy to approach to their business. So through that, 10 years later, we've consulted with organizations across Canada and the US. Got about 50,000 people a month that visit our blog. We've got 10,000 or so subscribers on our YouTube. I've did strategic planning for some of the clients that I want to talk about. The University of British Columbia has had us on, the Central Bank of Fiji, the Reserve Bank of Fiji, organizations across Canada, a lot in BC, across the East Coast, and then as far as Florida. Been to Wisconsin, been to Florida a couple times, California a couple times. I got a couple Oklahoma clients in healthcare, and just all over the place. I've got a couple great clients in Toronto. And why I say this is we've just seen so many different organizations, but fundamentally throughout all of that, they all have sort of the same problem. And fundamentally, strategic planning and coming up with an aligned vision has been a common sort of thread in terms of what they needed to do to solve them. So it's just been a lot of fun. I don't know, like how this podcast got started was actually because when I wrote my second book, so I wrote a book on entrepreneurship that you can find on Amazon, which is I wish I knew entrepreneurship lessons I learned the hard way, so you don't have to. I just try to share all the lessons I learned there. And my second book started, and it's called Alignment: How to Get Your People, Strategy, and Culture on the Same Page. And this podcast actually started because I said, well, why don't I interview people that are smarter than me? Because I can only probably write like a couple hundred pages on my own. But if I interviewed people, I'd be able to add some content, add a couple chapters. And then we recorded a couple of episodes, and then it just started like taking off. I started like really enjoying the process. And we've just got invites, like interview so many cool people, like especially in the past like 2-3 years. And shout out to my team, Jenna, Jason. You guys have been amazing at sourcing podcast guests and just creating that like following. But we've had like, if you haven't yet, check out some of our old podcasts. And I don't want to prioritize anybody over anybody else, but just some amazing guests. And I'm just super grateful. So I get to learn through osmosis through them. Some of my day one people, like, who's been on the podcast, like really great ones. So, and it's just been a blast. So they'll teach you a lot of stuff. I'm hoping through osmosis, I can teach you a lot of stuff. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about like strategy, one, and leadership as a second, because it is the strategy and leadership podcast. So, sort of best practices for strategic planning. So I've got this into a couple themes, and I'm going to try to not bounce around too much around here. But fundamentally, strategy, everything as you know, is about vision. And one of the biggest challenges I've seen with teams is everybody having a different version of what success looks like. And the tricky part about that is that I believe through like years and years of people like having vision statements throw people off because they sound good, they look good, but fundamentally from like an execution piece, a vision statement doesn't help you execute your strategy because nobody actually knows what it means and everybody has an interpretation of it, which is how our like one destination model came up. And I'll talk about our one destination model later. But really importance of having like one clear specific vision. If I'm totally successful 3 years from today and have a specific date on it, like how will you know? Like that's a number one thing I recommend for people, for them to have that. And if they don't have that like clear version of success from that one piece, you're setting your team up to fail. And I've seen it so many times. The other thing I've seen a lot is like a paper plan. And I didn't even realize it. Like it's legitimately taken me, well, less than 10 years to realize that a plan is only so good. So a lot of us, or a lot of you might know that we facilitate strategic planning meetings. And a lot of people have like hired facilitators and know what that's like. I can write you a strategic plan. I can write you a business plan, but it's actually not going to accomplish what you want. So there's a lot of other facilitators, strategy consultants. They'll write you a really good plan and they'll give it to you and it'll be expensive as hell, but it's not going to actually accomplish what you want. And the reason is the thing that makes the success of a strategic plan is the people behind the plan within the organization actually understanding what that success means, having that common idea, understanding what the roadblocks are and getting those like psychological roadblocks out of the way. So that's like the plan is only worth the paper that it's printed on. And I've just really gotten that. And that for you to make it successful is the people have to be bought in and into the process of like getting that. So documenting it is one piece. Talked about the importance of vision. It takes way longer than I even imagined. So when I first started like selling strategic plans and doing these facilitations, we got tons of great outcomes from like the 2-day session. But I was like cheaping out on our clients in the sense that I wasn't offering that follow-up support, which was really the thing that they needed. Because as we've gotten to this and we've been able to like ask for more money from people, and I'll talk about how much like money that means, that the ones that we were able to really like dig in over like months and years, they were the ones that got the most value. And so I had a mentor a couple of years ago. He doesn't know he's my mentor, but just a mentor. And he's like, we just stopped doing engagement less than a year. And I haven't been able to pull the trigger on that. I'm going to be really honest. I haven't been able to say, no, I'm not going to just facilitate your strategy meeting because I think people still need that. But it's really like the process of actually getting your plan moving successfully takes a year and a half of 2 years of like work and consistent follow-up and touch points and things like that. And so I try to give the benefit of the doubt to the clients that we're working with and the clients that like hire us, that to say like, okay, I trust that you can do that, because it's not like it won't get done. But I do know that the ones that we've worked with for a year or more, they really start seeing the benefit, because you have to like change how people are thinking and change how people are doing things and how they've done it in the past. I wouldn't say that we're radically doing strategic planning any differently than everybody else, mainly because I just read, hundreds of books, like no exaggeration, and put it all together and made our own model. But it's the approach to having other people do it and execute it that way that makes the difference. And like the process is super important. So that's one thing that we bring to the table, is like a common process, again, goes into that one destination model. The process of leading the strategic plan is so important, that everybody knows that there is a set beginning, a middle, and an end to the actual strategic plan creation, and then a process of how you're going to execute the plan, whether that be, your follow-up meetings, whether that's how you stay accountable, whether that's like communicating the plan. Like, I didn't actually write this down, but if I think about it process wise, and we've made tons of videos about it, but there's like the pre-work, so getting all the insights into the plan. Okay, there's the actual like strategizing, where you go through your like current state, future state, risks, prioritization, action plans. There's the alignment part, like within that, like making sure that everybody's aligned, that that's where the plan is. There's the communication of it, which is like getting that plan out to everybody else and then realigning everybody there. And then there's the actual like execution and governance piece, which is getting the plan, like staying on top of the plan and managing the plan and managing the work and managing the people and doing the culture pieces and all of the other stuff, the transformational state change stuff. And the pre-work and the plan itself is such a small part of that plan. So like if you're going to get a facilitator, they'll facilitate the meeting for you, and that might cost you, for us, it's like 12.5 grand to have us do a 2-day session or help you create a strategic plan. Like, that's how much it costs. But that's like maybe 10 or 15% of the total thing. You really do need a year and a half of work, and sometimes, like 60, 70, 100 grand of support from a good consultant. But it's in the comparison to how much you're going to get as an outcome if you're an organization doing, a couple $1 million in revenue, or even if you're smaller than that, if you're guiding a couple staff and you're paying them $60,000, $70,000 a year, you'd want them to be doing the right stuff and not the wrong stuff. And that's where the value of strategic planning is huge, which makes doing my work fun. But anyways, all of that to say that the process of strategic planning is like super important for the thing to actually move forward. Talk about that. Goal setting. Goal setting has been a lot harder for us than we actually imagined it would be. Some clients like get it, like setting the difference between objectives and goals. So objectives, which is how, in my experience, most people have within their strategic plans, they're qualitative. We're going to increase revenue. We are going to increase engagement. We're going to decrease defects. And it's broad, but everybody has a different idea of what that is. And people are like okay with saying, okay, broadly speaking, here's where we want to focus. It's once you get into the specifics that people have a really hard time committing, because they don't want to be wrong. Like, psychologically, it messes with them. And it takes like a lot more time. Like, Jenna and I have had coaching clients that like are running multi-million-dollar organizations and are like, okay, you need to set this goal from here to here by here. And it's been a struggle. Like, it's the struggle bus, like sometimes months. And I don't know what to do about it. We still haven't figured out like that secret sauce, even though we've got a goal setting guide. We've got like tons of support. We're really good at coaching. Like, I can't like force them to set a goal. My wife is going through the process of setting OKRs with her team. And she's like, oh my God, like, this is ridiculous. And I don't know what it is. I think it's like psychologically the commitment piece of having to do it and making it real. But that's what makes a great plan, is having it real and having it be trackable and quantifiable and measurable. But people don't like that. So the goals are hard. The actions are easy. like actually just like saying, hey, here's what I'm going to do. People love doing the actions and they want to get into that. But I've found a lot of plans, even our own clients, when they walk into the session saying, I know what we want to do. I'm like, well, then what's the point of a strategy? Most people try to do everything. And that's not strategic planning. That's just doing. It's the key part is doing intentionally, focusing what's going to get you those biggest results. So the goals are hard, the actions are easy, the strategic choosing is hard, the focus is hard, the prioritization is hard. But if you have that big vision, which I talk about like ad nauseum, then it makes the whole thing easier to move forward. So if you're building a plan, make sure you have those specific goals and then like track them. The trackability for your strategic plans is key. You know, we year before, partnered with Cascade Strategy as a tool to track it. And it's made a big difference for the clients that want to jump on it. The aversion is that it costs money. Like it's more money than the free option. But those that have that long-term view, that actually see how important it is to have that investment, they get it, and they're the ones that get the ROI of it. I'm like entrepreneur cheap. Like I just like try not to spend money, and sometimes it actually hurts more than it helps. And so the ones that have really gotten success, and I hate to say it because I am cheap, the ones that have gotten success are the ones that really understand that like full investment. That for like an organization, it could be $100,000, you know, to invest in your strategy, like not including employee time. But what's the ROI of that? And it's just like what I try to bring it to is like finding those clients, finding those people that want to work with us, that understand that yes, there's an investment, whether you're using a facilitator or not, whether you're using a software or not, there's an investment one way or the other. But the outcome is like way higher. And I've had to mentally like retrain myself about that, to recognize that, you know, you got to put that money in to get the outcomes, especially when it's bigger. And like, you know, this has sort of been like a day one thing, but it's like the push versus pull. Is that like pushing a strategy on people, at least from my perspective, my clients, my way of doing things, is that it's way harder to like push a strategy onto people, that having them have accountability, have ownership, you know, be part of the creation of it, like setting their own targets is key, because then they have their skin in the game. You know, I've referenced that Gallup study that says like 2/3 of people are disengaged, and they're disengaged because people are just like, you know, managing them versus leading them. So I'm going to talk about that like after this, but you know, having people to be part of the process of owning their own success, like with a scorecard and recognizing like that's their own success for it, has been really key. Yeah, it's a lot more complicated of a process. It's easy if you can do it right, but the execution is the hard part. And I think that's the one biggest learning, and where we're shifting as a team, is to support more on the execution, to be more forward thinking in terms of like what are going to get in the way. Because we've started like in our typical process, we talk to somebody for like half hour, and then sometimes we do a scorecard conversation to, you know, do a measure of where they're at. And they all have fundamentally the same problems, but where it gets tricky is like the roadblocks within the organization that get in the way of the plan becoming a success. So anybody can create a strategic plan on a document. And if you're listening, you know, my encouragement would be like really focus on the back end of that execution. Like before you build your plan, start thinking about what you need to do to execute the plan, because that like step one is like that creation is like 20%. The 40% or the 80%, sorry, is the actual execution of a plan. And that's where I really wish clients like put their investment, put their time, put their mental energy into putting systems and structures around. The other thing, again, around that one destination is that like making it implied versus explicit, like really making sure that everybody has an idea and the same idea of what success is. Yeah, it's crazy. I had this thought recently of like Schrodinger's strategic plan, which is like a dumb thing that I would come up with, is that like if you don't ever look at your strategic plan again, then it's not like you didn't accomplish it successfully, because you just never knew. And so that's why, again, going back to Cascade, going back to the tracking, going back to having that clear vision, is you need to like revisit it often to know if you actually executed it or not. If you never look at it again, then technically you didn't not execute execute it because you never knew if you executed it or not. Anyways, it's just sort of what goes on in my head there sometimes. So that's basically, around strategy itself, the choices, the alignment, the getting the people on the same page. And I want to like shift gears a little bit to talk about leadership. So 2021 at SME Strategy, we're going to be releasing a leadership course, leading through uncertainty or leading through change or something like that, not to just tread on anybody else's toes, but because through COVID, we just saw it as such a need, is that managers, leaders, employees, I don't want to say that they're underprepared, because I don't think COVID or 2020 could have like really prepared anybody, but just it underscores the importance of that secondary piece, that people piece. So like I said, 20% of it is creating the plan. That's the strategy. The 80% is the leadership. So you're going to see us shifting towards being more leadership focused, being more people focused, not from like a culture, values, branding kind of place, but from a mental, human being, people management, listening kind of place. And then we're going to be developing in 2021 a community for our strategy peeps. And then we're going to be offering a membership for that, which I'm excited for, but we haven't rolled it out yet. So it's like hush hush. But if you want to know more about it, you can reach out to us. But really to support leaders in their own leadership and managing the people in the plan and managing the plan itself. So providing like a low cost opportunity to get that sort of insight. So, so as part of our like one destination model, and you might have seen a webinar with it, and maybe somebody will drop an image in here through that, where we have like the one destination between, and then the one destination is fundamentally like that strategy piece, the vision piece. But what actually makes that thing go forward is the communication, the like values, the behaviors, the language, and the tracking and the goal setting, the accountability. Like that's really the thing that moves it forward. So communication, oh man, I mean, I'll say, you guys know me, I'm married 3.5 years, working with a lot of teams, just getting into, I get a lot of reps these days in terms of communication. I lead a CEO peer group, so I'm talking to CEOs all the time, coaching them, doing other strategy work, working with a lot of stakeholders. Like communication is so part of this. It's listening to people, it's understanding people, it's getting them to buy into your plan, it's actually having the like highways of communication within your organization like built to support the execution of the plan, to avoid stuff falling through the cracks. And it's way more critical than I even imagined, because I never came from that sort of like large organization. I'm like entrepreneur, like built up to here, and just like asked and pulled it out of people. But like the communication structures, just so key, making sure that those are sufficient to get your message across and to like hear from people. Especially when it comes to like cascading the plan down and hearing feedback up, like you need those structures in place, whatever that looks like for your team. I've always been big on values and behaviors, like the way we do things around here, like needs to be explicit. It also gives you permission. Like those of you that have ever had a consulting conversation with me, like sometimes I stutter because I'm just like afraid of saying like the direct thing. And then I have to ask you, can I tell you the direct thing? And then I'll tell you the direct thing, which makes me feel way more comfortable instead of trying to like circle around it. I'm Canadian, just very diplomatic. But like setting those ground rules as a team is so important. We've talked about like the Tuckman model, the forming, storming, norming, performing, through COVID. That was huge, because like as soon as you worked from home, it changed your team structure. Same people, different rules. And if you took a meeting from your bedroom or office at home, it'd be weird before. Now it's expected. And so setting those norms and resetting those norms and realigning those norms as a team is the gateway to performance. And if you don't realize that, then you are sort of projecting what you think people should do. And so like a stumbling block in leadership is the expectations and the word should. This person should be doing that. I should be doing that, versus like get to. But like expectations will mess you up in a team. And once you can, and through coaching, like people work with us, coach one-on-one, and it's just like often it's like, hey, what I expect as a leader versus what they're doing. They're just doing what they're doing. Your expectations are the thing that are getting in the way. So being able to manage that and do that formally through values, and not just like lip service values, but like living the values. And I've talked about that a lot, but it's we are proving right, as in that the ones who adapt the values are the ones that are driving more success. And then the goals in the scoreboard, tracking people's performance, numbers talk. We even have, internally it's saying, hey, what is like the benchmark of what you're trying to do? Talked about that. Underperforming employees, disengaged employees, they need to know what the scoreboard is, whether that's through your strategic plan as a whole by using something like Cascade or some sort of like digital display, but they just need to know what performance measures are going to be tracked, and to have common goals. We've seen, and this sort of goes to the strategy piece as well, but like common goals break down information silos. They break down team silos where it's like my team versus your team versus like us versus them versus you, especially when it comes to common stakeholders. So if you can get those common goals, then it'll be an instant, like you have to break down that communication silo. You have to break down that information silo in order to accomplish that big goal. So joint goals, co-creation, as Keith Ferrazzi shared, it was just that's been a big game changer, implementing that with our teams. I'll talk about like unclarity. Like unclarity is it comes with the goals, comes with the vision, comes with the expectations. It's like we talk about moving from implied to explicit. There's a lot of unclarity within organizations. It comes from expectations. It comes from just like human beings, but clarity reduces friction. It reduces friction to being able to hear communication. It reduces friction to being able to deliver communication. It reduces friction in terms of actually getting stuff done. It smooths the allocation of resources. Remove unclarity. That's the technical word. One thing that I've noticed as a human being, but also like coaching people and leading people through this, is like how much baggage people carry around. And it's, I assume it as a human being, that that people have baggage. But what maybe is surprising me, or surprised me in the past and doesn't surprise me now, is how much that baggage interferes with work. And I see it every day. For example, I was talking to a client today. I said something, whatever I said, and then I could see their face move. That's what one of the skills as a facilitator is, to recognize what people are doing in their brains. And their face made an expression, and I just said, okay, what's going on in your head? And this is the rule and not the exception, that they're interpreting whatever I said through whatever sort of filters they've developed over time, or they're thinking about and processing it. But understanding that every single person that's doing anything in your work has filters that they're looking through, and that they're interpreting or receiving information or managing through everything. And your ability as a leader to be able to distinguish those filters and sort of communicate through around them is critical to being able to get the plan to be successful. Again, like us as a facilitation company and a strategic planning company, our ability to be able to remove those filters, which often act as roadblocks, is why our facilitation and strategy sessions are effective. Because people walk into the room with all of this baggage, and they sort of dump it on the table for everybody to see or deal with. And it gets in the way of stuff getting done. So if you've had a meeting where it's like herding cats, or it's the same thing over and over again, I'm going to say that again. Okay. If your meetings are like herding cats, or the results of your meeting are the same thing over and over and over again, it's because what's showing up isn't the actual issue you're talking about. It's the baggage behind it. And until you remove that baggage or that real concern, you're never going to be able to get to the outcome that you want. So you need a skilled facilitator. You need somebody skilled on your team who's good at listening to what people are saying and listening to what people aren't saying, in order to be able to move through that. Yeah, and just I really like this John Maxwell quote is, if you're a leader with no followers, then you're just going for a walk. And so leadership, as we talk about it, and leading through change and uncertainty, is really getting people to where they want to go and getting them to where you want to go. And ideally, like trying to get that place that you're taking them to be the same place. Like that's what a leader does. He leads people to there. And then sometimes leaders need to be led, and creating the opportunity for your leaders to sort of lead together and lead at different times. We just did a big project with the state of Alaska Department of Education on scenario planning. It was like 3 months long, teaching 140 to 500 people. Some watched it live, some watched it recorded, on scenario planning. And scenario planning as a tool, which is becoming more and more relevant, is because you're trying to lead people to this place that is uncertain. Like, we don't know where the future is, so we need to be equipped with tools to be able to get us there. So as a leader, if you can manage uncertainty, if you can manage like being in uncertainty and leading people through uncertainty, which is why we're doing the course on it, you're going to be way more successful in 2021, 2022, 2023, because this like certain future that we thought we knew where it was going, it's not real. There is no certain future. We just had this like comforting consistency, and now that comforting consistency is gone, and it's like more than disruption. It's just like it's chaos. So yeah, it's a crazy time right now. But that's like really the opportunity that you have as a leader, is to be able to manage your people and to understand that it's not just their like work plan that you need to deal with. You need to deal with the fact that somebody in their work might have, lost their job, or that somebody they know might have had COVID, and you need to manage their like mental state for 2 weeks while they're on quarantine, or wherever you're at, whatever you're dealing with. That the economy and their investments went to shit because of something that happened externally. Like, it's just chaos in the system. But your plan operates within that system. Your life as a human being operates within that system. So the more you could be comfortable with uncertainty and like grounded in it, the more successful you're going to be at leading. And that means leading yourself, that means leading others, and that means leading the strategy. So you gotta have those tools. You gotta have like systems to support you. As an individual, like, you got to take care of yourself. Like, you got to fill your cup up first, because you cannot pour from an empty cup, as they say. You got to take care of your health. You got to take care of your mental. You got to take care of the stuff you got to take care of, because it's going to get in the way of you actually like serving other people. And then you got to realize that your job is, as a leader, is to serve other people. Where are they at? How do they need to fill up their cup? That's why I'm here on this podcast and this YouTube for you guys. It's like, I want you to have a full cup. I want you to be able to manage your time, to not feel like, oh my gosh, I'm being pulled every direction. You're still going to get pulled in every direction. It's the problem is you just don't expect it, or you don't want it to happen. And that's it. That's why having people in your corner that can like pull you up, like above the line, is key. That's what we're here for, is to really like help you lead. And it's a good thing to have. And I have those people. Maybe, full transparency. I've got groups. I've got a CEO group that I'm a part of that I happen to lead, and they pull me up. I've got a counselor that I talk to. I got a personal trainer. Like, those are the investments I need to make in myself in order to be there for you guys, because you guys give me all your crap. I take all your crap, but it's great because that's what I chose. That's the path I chose, and that's the path you chose by taking your title. If you took a manager title, if you took a C title, you chose to be a leader. If you worked in an organization and you listened to somebody talk to you, you chose to listen. And so you can either be a victim of what's happening to you, or you can own it and take actions that are in line with that. So if you're like down with that, like, you're in the right place. If you're like, do not want that responsibility, which I really like, is, the response to your ability, the response to your ability. If you have the ability to do it, then what response are you going to take? What actions are you going to take to move it forward? And that's like what the world needs in terms of leaders, is people who are taking actions in line with their ability to do so. And some people aren't designed to be leaders, and that's just not where they're at. And that's totally cool. Like, the world needs all kinds of people. And if you're accepting that leadership challenge, then, like, roll with us, like, stick around, because the world is totally messed up right now. You might not hear on that on every podcast, but you hear it on this one. The world is totally messed up, and it's not going to change by accident, and on just so many levels. But that's what our mission is for the next couple of years. No joke. We're here to support you guys in leading your people. And it's always been, you guys might not know this, but like our strategic planning, why I started this company is to help change the world. Because if your strategic plan is in place, then your leaders have clarity and they have communication, which means they like their jobs, which means your people are happy. And if your people are happy, the families are happy, and your families are happy, their communities are happy, which means we make the world a better place. That's why we're here. This is my get to, because I get to do that. So we're just going to shift that. It's still to make the world a better place. Although, you know, you hear about that in that, I can't remember what that tech show is, but anyway, here to make a better place, but it's a better place for you and to like change it positively, to impact it. And that's why we need leaders. This is why it's strategy and leadership. But the strategy is only 20%. The leadership is the 80%. And that's really where we're going to like dig into for the next couple of years. Because, you know, I joke, I didn't get fat overnight. The world didn't get like this overnight. And so it's not going to change overnight. So if you're down for moving that forward over the next couple of years, if that's the kind of organization you want to be, I've talked to a lot of people around like B Corps in Canada. I imagine B Corps are global. You know, that's not what I'm saying per se, but I do think that capitalism with a conscience or mission-based organizations and kind of people trying to do that for good as well as make a bunch of money, then that's great. I've talked a lot about that for-profits should act more like not-for-profits and not-for-profits should act more like for-profits. You know, that's what we try to accomplish. There's no reason that it's they should be competing. It's not a zero-sum game. So yeah, that's it, I guess, folks. You know, moving forward, if you want to work with us, you know, we facilitate strategic planning meetings. We facilitate the execution of the plan through our basic and advanced packages through the One Destination program. We're going to be doing more stakeholder engagement sessions. We're doing a lot of that, especially virtually, doing a lot of virtual sessions, which is cool. Keys to leading strategic planning virtually, short sessions, 3 hours max. Break it up into components. We're doing strategic planning, 5 3-hour sessions, each components. Pre-work is super important. Different modes of interaction, whether that's Google Docs or any other sort of tools you might be using. Communication, excessive communication, getting people engaged, super important. But yeah, we're loving the online strategy sessions. It actually creates a lot of opportunities. And so I encourage you to use the opportunity to be online, to communicate with your people, to lead that strategy. I told you about releasing our new course on leadership in the new year, and then our community. We're going to be building a strategy community in 2021 for people to be a part of, to share with, to learn from. And then we're going to be offering some Q&A options there to support in that leadership, in addition to the coaching and stuff like that. So if there's something I could leave you, again, like 10 years of doing strategic planning, working with hundreds of organizations and thousands of individuals, is, you know, get everybody on the same page towards that one destination of where you want to go. Build the systems and structures in place to make it successful, because you can't get to that future place without the systems, and you can't get to that future place without the people. So the plan is 20% of the work, and everything else is the environment around the plan. And then if we think about the plan, the environment in your organization around the plan, and then there's everything in the world around us. And as leaders, y'all are going to need to get really good at being able to be nimble around what's happening in the world. And if you can be nimble and adaptive to what's happening in the world, then you're going to be able to be more successful with the environment in your organization, which means you're going to be more successful in getting to that destination that you and your team want to get towards. So it's all about leadership. It's all about strategy. It's all about getting buy-in and alignment and engagement. And I just really look forward to being able to build our community in the literal and metaphorical sense, and having you all be a part of it. And if you want to go, if you want to go where we're going, we're happy to support you in getting there, and supporting you in being great leaders and being successes in whatever that way that looks for you. And globally, we're in the west side of Canada. We rep Cascadia, but Africa, Asia, Europe, I see you. I see all you people every time you fill out a form on our website. I see you, and I look at your company, and I look you up on LinkedIn. Like I'm following you all. And so, if you see me on LinkedIn, connect with me. If you see us on a video on YouTube, subscribe. if you want to just say what's up, like let me know, because this is a global community and it's global leaders. And for us to be successful, like we cannot do it alone. And so we need to be able to band together, and that, I want you to know, if you're listening to this right now, I want you to know that I'm here for you, that I'm here to support you, that my team is here to support you. And if you get an email from us, it is 100% like we're trying to partner with you and try to support you and help you get to where you want to go. And that's it. We're a business. We want to sell stuff, but we can't sell anything if we don't help you get to where you want to go. So I appreciate you listening to this podcast. I appreciate you if you join us on YouTube today. I'm happy to answer any questions or anything, but I just appreciate you being here. Be sure to subscribe. You can connect with us right here. I don't know what's going to happen right here, but something's going to show up when I point at this button. And just be sure to stay connected with us. Be sure to subscribe to everything that we're doing, and just give us a holler. Send us a note and say what's going on and how are you. So I hope today was valuable for you. It's been Anthony Taylor. I'm the managing partner at SME Strategy. It's such a pleasure to be able to be given the opportunity to support you. And I really hope you enjoyed this 75th episode of the Strategy and Leadership Podcast. All right, everyone, take care. And until next time.